Hello and welcome to Hashtag General, the show whose intros are hastily written but still clever, but they were hastily written 3 seconds before we go live. I'm one of the hosts, Logan Studley. Joining me, as always, via Discord is the wonderful, fantastic Chris Sakamura. How are you doing, Chris?
Not bad. I appreciate the intros, Logan.
Yeah, I clearly put a lot of thought and effort into that.
Thought that
Uh,
counts.
it's
Well,
the
like
thought
when
that
you,
counts, yeah. The fact I'm giving them 5 seconds of thought is probably, like, enough.
I know, like you saying that they were written, I was like,
Like,
wow,
I
that
don't
feels.
see no pen.
Logan, you don't know how to use a pen.
Shh. My part of my professional career is writing. They can't know that. Oh, how are you doing, Chris?
Not bad. It's been I guess we're gonna talk about it, but it's been a very Pokemon filled couple of weeks.
Yeah, I figured I've been seeing more and more stuff poke up in my social media feeds about Pokemon. And I was like, oh, I'm sure Chris is all up in that.
Yeah, it's been a real Pokemon filled couple weeks.
Yeah, no, sounds like fun. How are you
Well, you-
enjoying the game? Because everyone keeps talking. I remember you described it as a very different, like Pokemon meets, I think, Breath of the Wild was how you described it to
yeah,
me.
so that's kind of like the best way to describe it and what everyone kind of is describing it as. And it's sort of the only thing that really fits. And it's seen as kind of game breaking, or not game breaking, but like um breaking the mold, so to speak. And so
Yeah, because it's
everyone's
a
really
very,
excited.
very different take on Pokemon.
Yeah, so everyone's very excited, and like if you talk to any fan or any long-term fan that's played, it's sort of become somewhat of a, because again, Pokemon's been very stagnant over the years, and so this is sort of a call of like, this is exciting. Like, this is something that we were waiting for. This is for something very exciting. And so yeah, it's become a very very much like, oh, this is a bright spot and like for the future of what this series is going to be now. Again,
Nice.
that might be a little bit of overreaction, but again, like people are just very excited in general. So
Well, I think there's a few things that go into that. One, there's Pokemon has a huge player base and fan base, and even though yeah, I've never played Pokemon, like I always like just from osmosis I knew about like the whole idea of like the boss battles and like I kind of understood a bit about like how the game functioned, and so the fact that they're doing something different, like I get why people would be excited and feel like it's, a bright outlook to the future because it isn't the same old thing repackaged and updated. Not saying that necessarily that the older Pokemon games were exactly that, but I can see why people would be like, the seeing the same formula over and over again could get stale.
yeah, I think the staleness is sort of the big thing here. That it's they're freshening things up and
Yeah.
in exciting ways, and like the willingness to experiment, especially with what is a sort of tried and true formula at this point is refreshing, right? And so even if this, I think even if this game was bad, which is not, it's wonderfully brilliant. The gameplay loop is highly addictive, but I think once you get to the point where you take a company that is now willing to experiment when they hadn't been before, I think is something that is
Yeah, it's a big risk to take something that has a formula, is widely popular. Even if people are saying it's stale, if you break the formula, that can backfire.
yeah, 100%.
So the fact that everyone seems to be taking it, and embracing it, I think first off, that's a sign, like you said, that the gameplay is good. If it had been bad, I think more people would be criticizing the differences. But also, it's just, even if it was good, it could have backfired. People could have been like,
Yeah,
this isn't the Pokemon I remember, and would have been upset. Or so I think it's a good thing that we're not seeing that. Just everything I've been seeing online has been positive. Uh, but yeah, so I'm guessing that's what your free time has mostly been. I've been
pretty much.
I've
I'm
been
excited to
reading.
hear the Disneyland story too.
Yeah, I think we should kind of go into because most like I haven't actually played any games in 2 weeks because I've been reading or writing, which is for me a good sign. Um, so I
You've
just
been a
haven't been.
productive boy.
I've been productive-ish. There's also been some, getting caught up on some TV shows, but yeah, it's just whenever I'm like, I should play a game, I'm like, oh no, I should actually do this other thing. So self-control and growth. I don't know. We'll see how long this lasts. Probably another day. Yeah, let's dive into Disneyland because that was our adventure, as in mine and James's adventure, last Sunday. So to
Yeah.
fill people in, Chris knows a lot of this already, but to kind of fill people in, there was a whole bunch of us. This is basically everyone who is in my D&D group. Almost. One person is based in Colorado and, of course, couldn't make it. We went to Disneyland mainly because Jeff's birthday had been a month ago. So we were like, let's just celebrate his birthday at Disneyland. So it was kind of a Jeff's birthday celebration with 6 people at Disneyland. And I know we could go really deep into like everything that happened there, but James, why don't you kind of just talk a bit in the sense that Chris, I don't know if you know this was James's first trip to Disneyland since he was middle school or high school?
Yeah, I went 2005, so it's been a while.
Yeah, so about the same amount of time. Well, in fact, yeah, I would say almost the same amount of time compared to the 2 times. Like when I went with you, Chris, it had been about the same amount of time. Do you enjoy yourself, James?
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a whole park designed for amusement, and
I'm sure
it
there's a
just
way you
didn't
can call
stop.
that. Like,
No, but yeah, it's like I haven't really been to any amusement park at like this point in my life, and I just found it like a much different experience.
did you ever do Silverwood as a kid?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
but like I haven't been to Silverwood in probably about the same amount of time as
Oh
Disneyland.
yeah, no, I think I've been to Disneyland as a teenager more recently than I had been to Silverwood. So for 99% of the planet, and Chris, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, there is randomly a theme park in North Idaho. It's the only
We talked
yeah,
a
it's like
little
the
bit.
only theme park in the Northwest. It has roller coasters. It's not a bad theme park, but
It's in the middle of nowhere.
middle of nowhere, and it's successful. That's the crazy thing about it, is it's successful in the middle of nowhere, but like I want to say at least half an hour outside of the town I grew up in. Literally, you're driving through forests and fields, and then all of a sudden there's a roller coaster. But I think what was crazy for me about this Disneyland trip, and I've already told you a bit about this, like in text messages and other conversations, Chris, but I think the best way I can explain it is my sister called me the next day because she and I have been talking about doing a Disneyland trip, like her coming down to visit and us doing Disneyland. And she's like, oh, so what all rides did you do? And I'm like, well, we did Space Mountain, and then we did like Buzz Lightyear, then we did Star Tours, then we did Indiana Jones, the Jungle Cruise, the Tiki Room, Pirates of the Caribbean. And she's like, oh, that's not bad for, a Disneyland trip. And I was like, Caitlin, that was before noon.
Yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah, and it just kind of kept going like that. We ended up waiting about an hour in line for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I want to say 30 minutes at the Incredicoaster. But every other ride, including Rise of the Resistance, I want to say we were in line under 15 minutes, if not under 20. And in some cases, like Rise of the Resistance, we probably spent more time walking to get caught up to the line than we actually spent in line.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Like, and it was just like a lot of it was luck. Indiana Jones had been down at the opening of the park, and it reopened right when we were walking past it. Rise of the Resistance went down and reopened like right when we were in that end of the Galaxy's Edge and were able to walk over very quickly. It just was anything that we thought would have been a long wait, either by happenstance and luck, the lines were either short or something had happened that made the line short when we were there. So we were able to do basically like almost everything like that we wanted to do. The only one that we ended up skipping was Web Slingers because the wait for that line was like an hour 10, hour 20.
Yeah,
And we were
so
just
you
like,
probably it would have taken like 40 minutes, and Web Slinger's not worth it.
exactly.
100%.
That was kind of our thought about it. It's like it's fun. If we were waiting 20 minutes, we could have fit it in. If it had been like a 20-minute wait, we could have fit it in. But we had an appointment at Galaxy's Edge, and we are like, well, we don't want to risk missing that on the off chance that the line gets better.
Galaxy's Edge.
I got to experience the lightsaber building again, this time as
okay.
an observer rather than as a builder.
Okay, there you go.
So Kelly, Charles, and Becky now have built their own custom lightsabers. So
It's a beautiful experience.
it was a
Not gonna
beautiful
lie.
experience. I think our guide, when we built our lightsabers, did a better job than the one they had. Like
I mean, well, we went
but-
pretty early.
Yeah.
Like we went like when it was still new and fresh. Like at this point, they gotta be jaded. At this point, they gotta be a little jaded.
Yeah, the guy who was doing it seemed like his delivery was a little flat. And I was just like, I'm not going to judge too harshly because, of course, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, this guy sucked when we walked out of the thing because, of course, like, I was the only one who had experienced it twice. And on top of that, like, Becky, Charles, and Kelly are just like, oh my God, I have a lightsaber. So it's just like, it was like a minor note I gave to myself. I'm like, yeah, this guy could have worked on his delivery a bit, but it was still like, it's still like a moving experience, even to me, even just as an observer. Because I got, not only was I'm like, oh, I know it's coming. Oh, this is exciting. But I was getting to see my friends have like just experience like a whole bunch of joy over the fact that it built a lightsaber. But yeah, like Disney, it was just like fantastic. Like everything we wanted to do, we did, and we were able to fit it in. And we probably would have left a couple hours earlier if it wasn't for the fact that we had a cantina appointment for 10 o'clock at night. But I know one thing you're going to want to talk about that we can either talk about later when we talk about Star Wars, or we can talk now, is Rise of the Resistance.
I want to know you're right, because I've been on it a couple times now, and like it never gets old, and it's always a special experience. And like I want to know what your walk me through this. Like how'd you feel? What happened? How'd it go?
Going through the line, because I know that they had set up stuff to be like photo opportunities for while you wait in line.
Yeah.
And there's
we just like flew through it.
We just flew through it so fast that there's a part of me that is like kind of looking forward to going to it again and being like, oh, I'm gonna have to wait an hour. So this time I can actually take photos in front of like the X-Wing. But one of the things I realized, I want to say, we weren't even a minute in, and I was just like, there's so much here I know I'm missing. Not in the sense that I don't get what's going on or I'm not missing major story beats. It's so much, I'm like, there's so much detail here that I'm not going to catch everything until I've written this multiple times, again and again. Like, I almost wanted to be like, hey guys, you want to go again? But we were all like just tired because we'd been in the park for over 12 hours at that point.
Sure.
But it was just like, I was like, I want to write this again because I feel like I'm missing so many details that are just like the extra little touches. But it was just like, I could have been in the gun room where they're like firing the big laser turret at the Resistance fleet. I could have been in that room for like an hour and probably would have just stared out that window.
Yeah.
Because
it's wonderful.
It's, as a fan, the movies can bring you into that world, but this was like one of like, it's like, I think it says a lot also about Galaxy's Edge in general, that they did a really good job trying to make the world feel real. Like you could actually reach out and grasp it even more so than the film. Like, cause here's an actual tangible place. Sure. And to have there be like one of the essential parts of Star Wars, like the big epic battle And being able to like be in the battle, looking around, staring out the window was just like, I could do this forever. Um, Plus, I love the way it really is just like an exercise in moving you through line. Like they made a line ride,
Yeah,
which is
they
kind
did
of
a
funny.
really good job of that.
But yeah, like it makes the ride so much like longer than it's not like 2 minutes and then you're like, well, get off. It's like, well, you can kind of like walk around and have like little moments to talk about like that last thing you did, and. But,
Oh yeah, like muttering to each other in the first order like hold, and having the first order officer be like, "What are you talking about?" Basically, kind of like not getting in your face, but just
So
like,
my favorite thing is that they're mean to you. Like,
yo, I love it.
I know. I was just like, man, they could be meaner, and I'd be happy with it.
oh, dude, I had one guy not cuss out, but like I had one guy like go at this kid for like leaning against something and was like, the ship's not your home. Stand up straight like you're a prisoner, whatever. And I was like, yo, this dude's going at it. I love it.
I don't think ours were that intense. Again, we were like going in at the end of the day on a weekend. Like I have a feeling they were just like, and the ride had just broken down, so I think they were just kind of like,
Get through the day. Yeah, let's
it's
get
just
through
like
the day.
let's get through the day point. But they were still like keeping it in character. Like I don't think they were as mean as they would often normally play it, but they were still like in character, and it was just
It's
like,
pretty wonderful.
and it's weird because it's literally like, okay, we're gonna move you from A to B now, walk from A to B. I'm like, they've made walking a ride, and
Yeah.
it's so cool. Also, getting to see a first order officer like being forced to push like a stroller is kind of funny. But yeah, no, I wrote it and I was just like, I can't wait to write it again, and just like try to even get more of it in, because I felt like while writing it, I was trying to watch and get so much out of it that I wasn't able to like. I wasn't focusing on some of the smaller details because I was just like trying to take it all in, and
Sure.
it was fantastic. And what was really interesting too is we had just done before that, or was it after that, James, that we went and did all of like the early Disneyland rides? Like
I
Pinocchio
was gonna
and Snow
say
White.
like we immediately went on like those dark rides, and they just like felt like cardboard in comparison. It was just like, oh, these are just like pieces of cardboard and black lights, and that's like it.
Weird is you can see the through line. At least I felt like I could see the through line in terms of like theme park design from those early Disneyland rides to Rise of the Resistance.
Wait, did
and
you guys get to do this is a weird side note. Did you guys get to do Mr. Toad's Wild Ride?
I think we did all of them.
I think we did.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is the most bonkers ride ever. Where you sit there and you go, how are they allowed to make this? How is this still here?
My thing is I couldn't tell what was going on half the time in that ride.
So that ride, Mr. Toad
You go to hell.
he gets arrested for speeding, then you break out of jail, and then as you break out of jail, you get hit by a train, and then you go to hell, and you see the devil. And like that's literally what that ride is, and you sit there and go like, how is this ride for kids? How did they make this ride?
Yeah, but like doing that one, we also did like Peter Pan and all these things. But the thing that I kind of took from it, going back to like the Silverwood bit with our theme park, is what I was used to from as a kid. But Silverwood is there was like a kind of a Western-ish theme to the park, but that didn't really extend to the rides themselves. So like the signage would be like old-timey Western, but like the roller coaster didn't tell a story. Whereas Disneyland, their roller coasters tell a story.
Yeah, like Incredicoaster is literally a story.
It's literally a story. Rise of the Resistance is literally a story. It is basically just an evolution of those early rides. It's just more immersive, more in depth, and just like, and it's Star Wars rather than with actual like animatronics rather than like cardboard cutouts. Like you can see the through line from that early Disneyland to like the stuff that's going on in Galaxy's Edge, and it's just like, this is crazy. just like the level of depth and detail. Because if you broke it down and took Star Wars out of it and just said, this ride you're going to be on, like basically you're going to all get on to like this gimbal rig that's going to shake around. Then you're going to get off it, walk over to another line where they're going to put you in a cart and drive you around in circles for like 3 minutes. And people will be like, well, that sounds silly, but it's what makes it good is the story that's happening around you.
Yeah.
But I am so glad I was able to catch that ride.
I feel like at the beginning of the ride, I was just like, when we were in that big kind of like transport ship, I was like, is this the ride? Like, this feels like kind of, it's like hard to tell what's
underwhelming.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is kind of like, okay, fine. Like, it's like a gimbal ride that you stand on or in or whatever. But I was like, eh. And then it like kept going.
You're like, nope, I guess that's not it. And let's keep going. And it's just...
Yeah, I think the moment where the door you entered in is now a Star Destroyer and it opens up is like a pretty powerful, like overwhelming moment for most people. And you're sitting there going like, how did they pull this off?
I know, and that's the crazy thing is it's like,
and like again,
like a different door opens. It's the same door that you walk in to get on the ride.
I know how they did it.
It's
but
always
like,
secret elevators.
No, it's so. Do you want to know the secret? Am I going to ruin it for you if I tell you how it works?
I love knowing how things work.
No, like this is one of those scenes where
if you look at the floor, the ship's on a turntable. So when it takes off, if you notice, you do a turn motion out of like when you're on takeoff.
Gotcha.
So the ship's turning as you're taking off. Like
oh my god! And that's how they hide the turn motion. Oh my.
Yeah. So like as the ship takes off out of the hangar or whatever, like it's turning to take off. So the motion of it turning is moved by like you're moving in the ship or the ship's like turning. So yeah, it's on a turntable, so it's just spinning.
Yeah.
To the other side.
One thing though about that like that little first bit where you get on the transport, that was one of the parts where I felt like this is going to be the area where there's always going to be like each part of that ship is going to have something different that you can pick up on. Because I don't know if you did this, James, but I noticed if you look out the window, you could like see different things going on.
Yeah.
And then there was,
that's why I was like, oh, I feel like I'm missing things because I'm like too far from the screen.
Exactly, but it's also like not important necessarily to the story.
But every part of the ship has something too. So like you don't feel left out if you're like not on the right side of the ship.
Exactly. But it made me want. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to go back. Is I'm like I want to experience like what is it like in the back right corner? What's it like in the back left corner? Like all those.
Right. What's it like right next to the captain?
Yeah.
Next to that big animatronic Mon Calamari.
Yeah, it's just like and I felt like the entire ride just has moments like that where I'm just like, okay, there's definitely other things I can pick up in here.
Yeah.
So it is definitely on my. If the line is short enough and we have the time, I can see that being a ride I will always try to get on. Just because there's always gonna be something to pick up on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was fantastic. The entire day was just like, I mean, we were exhausted, but it just was jam-packed, and we accomplished everything. Like, you name a ride, either we skipped it by choice or we rode it for the most part. So, which I would say is a pretty good, like, that's a good day.
That is a good day. It's a very, very good day.
Yeah, so it was fantastic.
Congrats, gentlemen. Wonderful. It's good to hear.
Yeah. But shall we dig into other things that we're going to go through probably fairly quickly before we spend 3 hours on Boba Fett?
Yeah. Let's kind of roll through it. I mean, it's not much more that we've it's pretty straightforward stuff, but what's next on the list here?
Rockstar has confirmed, so we're in games.
Oh, right.
Rockstar has confirmed GTA 6 is in development, and I realized I put this on here mainly because I realized when I saw that I'm pretty sure GTA 5 came out the same year James and I graduated from college.
Yeah, it came out the year I graduated high school.
Yeah.
I remember buying it. I remember Jenny bought it for me as like a graduation present when
Yeah.
we were like 18.
God, it was just like it's one of those things where it's just like it's hard to realize that game is almost a decade old. It still looks really
Over a
good.
decade old. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've upgraded it quite a bit over the years. But yeah, the core of that game is extremely old, and like I don't know if it would do as well or like have as long a legs if it wasn't for GTA Online. Which, by the way, do you hear the weird story about GTA Online with
I
the
haven't.
cartel?
No.
The cartels are using GTA Online to recruit drug runners.
I'm sure there's some logic in their thoughts about, well, if they're really good at driving cars in GTA, they're going to be great at driving cars in real life. But
Well, I think it's just like recruiting people that like want the lifestyle, right? Or like, are
if
interested
you
in the
want to
life.
really be a gangster.
Yeah. But yeah, that's apparently a thing that like now the FBI or whatever are trying to track because they're trying to like cartels are trying to recruit via GTA Online. But that's just a weird side note.
That
Very
is
odd.
odd. I never really
But yeah,
got
like
too deep into GTA Online.
it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's just a thing of like you got to get. There's a lot of people that get real into it, and so like yeah, if you're not real into it, then like you're missing out on quite a bit of what the community's doing. But the game itself's really fun. Um, the thing I will say is that like GTA 6 getting in or like them confirming they're working on it. I don't think there was any doubt in anyone's mind. I think
Same.
I think the thing that's surprising is that like now they're talking about it or like they usually don't talk about stuff unless they have something to announce. So maybe it's coming soon. But
Maybe
even
something at
then, like
E3.
yeah, I mean, but even then, no, Rockstar is never at E3. Never.
Ah,
They've never announced anything at E3, and they've never even cared to announce anything at E3. Um, the thing with GTA is like the most we'll get is like we'll get the icon, like what the icon or what the logo or the icon looks like, and then we'll get like 4 screenshots and a date, or not even a date, like a year, like a release window, and then that's it. And then we'll get a trailer, and then we'll get like a ramp up into whatever the game is 2 months before it comes out. That's always been their thing. That's always been like their from GTA 4 on. Like that's been their whole mantra of like very minimalist, very like yeah, we're too cool to do all the advertising stuff. Like what this is kind of a thing.
yeah, you know what
Um
you're getting. You're gonna
yeah,
buy
and
it.
so like
We don't need
yeah,
to. We
they're
don't need to pitch it to you.
yeah, so that's sort of like their mindset. And like again, I don't disagree with it. I respect it, but still like I'm we're not gonna it's not like we're gonna get a ton of info soon here.
Yeah, because I was kind of like you, where I was just shocked that they admitted that. I mean, wasn't surprised that they're working on it. Was kind of surprised that they admitted it.
Yeah.
Um, but hey, GTA 6. My question too then was, I'm like, so they're announcing it now. Is it going to come out at the end of the current console cycle? Like, how many years away is it?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a valid
I mean,
question.
remember GTA 5 came out for the Xbox. It was like one of the last Xbox 360 games.
Well, it wasn't just one of the last Xbox 360 games. It came out for Xbox 360, and I think the Xbox One was already available.
Yeah,
Wasn't
and
it?
then
Yeah, it was just like right at that time. Like it was a big
yeah, it was
title
like
launch, but
it was like one of the final games to come out for the 360, and then it was like an early release window game for the Xbox One and the PS4, like the PS4. So like they've always done that thing where it's always like the end of the console cycle game.
yeah, I wonder if they just
They've always done that. So,
yeah.
I well, the thing is like we are very far from the end of the console cycle.
Exactly. We're very far from the end of the console cycle, but also I wonder how much of it is them just looking at it and going, it's been a decade. Like, you can't keep. I mean, yes, GTA Online is basically making the money hand over fist, but
Yeah.
you gotta. I feel like Grand Theft Auto is like one of those ones where it's just like, it feels like they could and should, like, people want to get the next big story. But I'm also wondering how much of the online component is going to be even more integrated into like the title. Like, is the world going to be bigger?
I would assume so.
Yeah. Like, how is that
It
all going
it
to
always
work?
is. They always. I feel like I'm curious how. Um, I'm curious how the Rockstar team is I don't want to say adjusting, but adapting to like modern game design. Because I feel like with GTA 4, GTA 5, their biggest thing, they did the bigger is better thing, where it's like, oh, we're 6 times the size of GTA 3, or
Bigger
like
map,
yeah,
three characters.
our biggest map ever, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like that's been their big marketing push, and like that doesn't work anymore because people don't care. And like people now don't want long games. People want like bite-sized, or not bite-sized. People want just like very polished, like smaller, tighter narratives.
Yeah, I
Or like better gameplay experiences over size.
when I played GTA 5, I almost treated it like it was an episodic thing. I'd
Yeah,
go in, I'd play like the mission, and usually I wouldn't touch it again for like a couple weeks. Not because I didn't want to play it, but because, it took time.
sure.
So it just was like I didn't just sit down and beat the game. It was just something I savored over time, and I'm wondering if that might not be how they do it in the future. What if it's like, what if they take a page from GTA Online and you have a bunch of like side, like they already had like a bunch of side quests you can do. What if it is like a thing like that, whereas like the big storyline just continues to evolve over time, where instead of it being like the full game has everything, it almost has like a Destiny type thing where like the storyline gets continued with some form of expansion,
Sure.
even if it's if free or paid or however it's handled. It's
Yeah, I mean,
just
And GTA's done expansions before. I think GTA 5 had expansion. Like, it's not like
mhm.
it's a new thing, but again, they've always pushed like bigger, better, and like I don't think that works anymore. Or I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
that's
think
what people. I don't think that's what people want anymore. And so, like, I'm curious to see how they adapt to that.
yeah, a bigger map for the next GTA isn't going to necessarily solve anything. Like the GTA 5, like I by no means explored that entire map.
Yeah, and I
And
don't need
like
more.
yeah, so like it doesn't necessarily need to be bigger. Uh
If
but
anything, the bigger map's more annoying because it takes me forever to get anywhere.
mhm. Like it's like your thing. It's like even if they make the same size map or smaller, just more density I think would be the thing. Like try to make it do what Cyberpunk claimed they were going to do, where it was going to be like this dense world filled with a bunch of people. And if Rockstar did something like that, I would gladly settle for like a smaller map.
Yeah. To be fair, I think Cyberpunk delivered on that. Cyberpunk was really fun. The more I think about it, it just had like the technical bugs were just so much to get past, but like overall, that game's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I need to just sit down and finally just play it. Because I don't know. Have you picked it up since the last time they did any major updates?
Yeah, I mean, it gets smoother and smoother every time I try it. It's just a
Okay.
thing of I'm waiting for that next gen update so I can play it and it looks good on my Xbox. But other than that, like
Yeah, I'm
it
kind of waiting for it too, even though I don't have it on Xbox. I have it on the PC, so a lot of like those major like graphics updates won't affect me. But I have a feeling like once that one comes out, like a lot of stability issues will have been resolved. Because I ran into a couple AI bugs when I first played it.
sure. I mean,
Um,
but that's like part of the fun and the jank too, right? Like,
yeah. Uh, but anyway, let's move on to our next topic. The buying spree continues. This time it's Sony spending money. And my immediate message to you was I bet Microsoft is kicking themselves because Sony bought Bungie, who used to be owned by
well,
Microsoft.
yeah. I mean, so as far as I know, the the trying to think of the best way to put this. the Microsoft. So TLDR, Sony overpaid like a lot.
Hmm.
There was
I'd agree.
there was discussions going on last year that Microsoft and Bungie were in talks for something around 25 to 30 million.
Only that much for Bungie?
Yeah. What does
Wow.
Bungie make other than
Destiny right now. Yeah,
Destiny?
that's true.
So they're overpaying quite a bit. And this kind of goes to the thing of this by no means was a direct response to the Activision thing, but it is a direct response to Microsoft picking up all of these studios.
Yeah,
Um,
I did not take it as they're striking back against Activision so much as Activision was just another acquisition.
sure.
But yeah, that was kind of my thought too when I saw like what was it, 3.6 billion?
Yeah, and so again, that's over half of Sony's cash flow. I think they had around like 7 billion in cash reserves. So it's over. It's a significant chunk of what they had. Um, and
Like
so
I would have been shocked if Bungie went for like 20 to 30 million. I mean, you have a fair point. They only have like one thing right now.
yeah,
But I would have been like expecting something like very low, like 100 million, maybe 200 million, maybe.
yeah. I could have it wrong, but it was definitely under 1 billion.
Yeah,
It was like
that was the thing
well
is
under.
like it was not a $1 billion company. A lot of it
No,
is Bungie's name does still carry weight.
sure. I think the biggest thing though for them is it gives um so my friend
It's
Atriok.
leverage.
No, yeah, well, my friend Atriok is a huge is he does Marketing Mondays. If you like anything gaming industry business wise, go ahead check out Atriok. He does Marketing Mondays. He's an industry veteran. He's now he's becoming more of an influencer and a streamer, but he is a marketing head at Nvidia. Great guy. I've known him for a long time. Anyway, he did a Marketing Monday where he compared it to the nuclear arms race, which is a weird example, but stick with me. It's this thing of like
No, I get
now,
it.
like Sony now has a nuke. You
Yeah,
can't now Microsoft can't take Call of Duty
exactly.
off of PlayStation without Sony now having something to strike back with. And so, it gives Sony something in their war chest that Microsoft or Xbox fans care about that they can now close off.
Yeah,
If
they
if
spent.
Yeah, like Microsoft's still winning and they still have the arms race, but now they can't make anything exclusive without repercussions. So,
Yeah, basically, really, what it comes down to is Sony spent 600 million, probably overpaying still, on Bungie, 3 million on mutually assured destruction.
yeah.
Like they bought leverage. The moment you said like that whole like I got it immediately. It's like, and I think he's right. This is a move that screamed, especially with how much they spent on it. Sony was buying out Bungie at that rate to end it, to just close it because they needed an asset that they could bargain with,
Mhm.
and they didn't have that. So they
And
overpaid because
really when you
they
think about
felt
like
like they
what
needed it.
yeah, and really when you think about like the things the big major assets that are left that were within their buying range, Bungie was really only the last major one that would hurt Microsoft if they cut off.
Yeah, because Destiny you can play through Game Pass right now.
Yeah. But like,
Sony bought that's like I think a double like that's the why Sony grabbed it for so much is they now have leverage over a title that is probably very popular on Game Pass.
yeah. And like when you think of the studios, again, like we talked about last week or last podcast was the companies that are left that are the major third party developers that you could buy up. Like Capcom isn't a huge major player for Microsoft. That's more of a Sony property that you would just keep under your wing. But like closing that off to Microsoft fans, like Street Fighter V is not on Xbox anyway. Like they don't care. So, have in terms of a nuke that you could take away from Microsoft, like, yeah, this is the one.
I mean, how many games are there out there that were cross-platform, like Destiny, where it was available on all consoles, where it wasn't already owned by a major player?
That's what I'm saying. Like that, the only other one that I can think of is like Square Enix because they have the Tomb Raider series, they have Hitman, and they have Avengers. But again, that's the only one that I can really think of where it's like, oh, okay, that's the other one.
Yeah, exactly. The number of players in that space specifically, ones who release major titles across all platforms, is
Yeah, but
such a
like,
small list.
yeah,
That,
and even
and
then,
Microsoft
like
bought half of
that's
them.
yeah, and even then, that's not Square Enix. Those games aren't as popular as Destiny. Destiny is still extremely popular. I still have thousands of hours in Destiny. I'm playing on PC obviously, but like again, that PC is a major thing for Microsoft. So yeah, this is sort of a thorn in their side in terms of yeah, okay, we can't make this move because they can take away Destiny. Also, Phil Spencer is favorite game of all time is Destiny. So it's his
Yeah,
most played. It's his most played game, and he's talked about it many times of how much he loves Destiny. So
yeah. It was definitely it
it's a
was
personal
news
blow.
that caught me off guard, but also at the same time wasn't surprising because I was not expecting that number, nor was I expecting it to be Sony.
Yeah. Here, let
Uh,
me look this. Let me look up how much it got. The Microsoft Bungie. Let's see here. Yeah, see, vastly overpaid. So yeah, Bungie apparently only makes 200 mil in revenue.
wow. In some ways, it's almost like when they split from Microsoft.
Yeah,
Microsoft actually got kind of a good deal out of it.
yeah. I mean, here we go. Oh, okay. So yeah, okay. My bad. I was very, very far off. So yeah, it's the talk stalled in 2020. They were talking 2 billion,
Wow.
and that was too high for Microsoft. And Microsoft said no, that's too high.
Yeah.
So Sony paid almost double of what Microsoft
Sony
would have been willing to pay.
Sony needed a nuke.
Yeah, and that's what they bought. And again, like
And
I think it's a smart move. I get why. That's totally fine. I'm not like gonna destroy them for making that move. But yeah,
well,
it's
because the other on the flip side of it is if you are Bungie and all of a sudden Sony approaches you with more than what you were asking for, it kind of just like that makes things move fast
of course.
because you take the money and run. And so it makes sense like Sony bought it to where there would be either unless Microsoft wanted to get in a bidding war over a property that wasn't worth it in the sense of like it would cost more than you're going to gain from it.
Sure.
Like they found the thing to do it with. So makes sense. But we'll see how this all plays out. Call of Duty will be on PlayStation probably forever.
Yeah.
And Sony will be happy. Let's move on, shall we? To Star Wars, because of course we're going to talk about it. Some still kind of in the game space, because these aren't narrative details, but there were some Star Wars Eclipse details that leaked. So
Yeah,
a lot of this is
I don't know how like relevant they are because I couldn't confirm that like these were from reputable sources. But
yeah,
like it's still interesting to hear that like they really want to like play up the narrative of this and like make this a very big action adventure game and like I'm excited to see what it is. It looked interesting. It looked good from what I saw. I don't know how to trust this. We've
yeah. I
been
think
burned many times.
the fact that no one has verified, no one else has verified it means it's kind of a lot of speculation. But a lot of
Sure.
what they were saying, it still was like, well, if this ends up being true, like it sounds like like a fun game. Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
to where it was like, because it basically, like you said, very big on the narrative, very like narrative driven, like action. So I think there was some like Last of Us got mentioned in some things.
Yeah, I think to me the more fascinating news of the week was the 1313 leak,
Yeah, that
which
gameplay footage looked good.
made me very sad. Um, for anyone that doesn't know, the Star Wars 1313 was that like bounty hunter, like scourge of the underworlds of Coruscant game that we were gonna get. And yeah, we got gameplay footage from a game that was never finished, and it looked
Yes,
awesome.
yeah, it's supposed to be like a young Boba Fett,
Yeah,
but like some of the like animation stuff that was coming through, I'm like, wow, that looks like a game, like design choices that I wanted to say didn't really start coming into prominence until like 5 years ago.
yeah,
It just was like a bit ahead, and it's just like, man, like that would have been so cool if that game came out.
yeah,
But it's another instance of Disney bought Lucasfilm and then just wiped the slate clean, which I think in the grand scheme of things, we had these little bits like 1313 that got killed. But in the grand scheme of things, like it's a move where I totally probably would have done the same thing.
yeah,
Like, yes, we have found the baby that got tossed out with the bathwater, but there was a ton of bathwater.
yeah.
Most of it more bath than water. Um, but yeah, it was just like that video footage was cool. Other news too, James, on next slide. Jedi Fallen Order 2 has been confirmed in development at Respawn, but they've also confirmed a first-person shooter, and Star Wars first-person shooter is also in development at Respawn, and Respawn is partnering with a new company whose name I can't remember, but it was founded by one of the guy who was formerly at Firaxis, which is the same studio that brought us the newest XComs and Civilization. And so they're working on a Star Wars strategy game, which would imagine is some basically Star Wars XCOM.
Yeah. A lot of people were saying RTS, and I was like, it doesn't work. RTS doesn't fit Star Wars. It doesn't work.
Like, I think the big thing why people are like, RTS is because there is still a large fan base for Empire at War. But if they were going to be doing like an Empire at War 2 type thing, you wouldn't be hiring the guy who did turn-based strategy.
Yeah. It doesn't fit.
Yeah, so I do not see it as an RTS. My pet theory is we're probably going to end up getting, I would imagine it's going to be either prequel trilogy or original trilogy. And if it's prequels, you're going to be like leading a clone battalion or something against the Separatists. And if it is original trilogy, it's going to be like a rebel cell. But it's going to be basically, I'm expecting it to be essentially like XCOM turn-based tactical strategy is what I would expect just based off that announcement and who's involved. So, which I'm all down for. Like, reskin XCOM with Star Wars characters and you're okay. So, it's interesting how much Star Wars game news has come out ever since EA lost the exclusivity. These are still EA titles, but it's interesting just how much more Star Wars games we're going to get. Like, I think Disney made a good move in just being like, you know what? No. We went what seemed to be the easy way, where it's just we're going to let one studio work on it. So that way there's like, it's not all over the place, but then realizing that severely limited the number of games that came out and did not take full advantage of what could happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's the light in the fire, right? Like when you have exclusivity, you take your time.
yeah.
But when other people can make games, you got to step up.
So yeah, I think it was just interesting that we had this confirmed. Basically, it seemed like it was just like a press release from EA.
Yeah, weird. It was a weird time, like on a random
Just
Tuesday. Like they just were
yeah,
like,
just was
"Oh,
like apparently there was a package.
oh,
Yeah. Um.
mm,
Yeah. It just seemed odd. That was like I think the big thing about it. It isn't just like yay, we're like got confirmation on Jedi Fallen Order 2, which again kind of like GTA 6. It was kind of like well, yeah, where no one is surprised that they're making it, but it also was just kind of like this just seems like odd timing. I wonder if
yeah,
they were like trying to get ahead of a leak,
could be."
or actually
Very well
another
could be.
thing. The other bit of it too was I think that press release included the announcement of the studio because apparently it's a new studio that had just been founded that is doing the strategy. And so I'm wondering if it was just like they knew that news was going to come out with that bit and Respawn was going to be involved with it. And they went, you know what will actually get more attention is if we just admit that Fallen Order 2 is in development and that their Respawn's working on another Star Wars game and the studio is launching with a Star Wars game. That may have been their logic behind it. It's still weird,
Yeah, it still
but
is very weird.
yeah. I was just sitting there going, yay, Jedi Fallen Order 2. Please have less puzzles that drive me insane, Zepho. God. I was really glad when I realized that's what was really bothering me with that game. It wasn't the game. It was literally just the puzzles on Zepho. But yeah, I really like what Respawn did. So I'm excited to see what they do with like a first person shooter and what we get from this strategy game. But let's dive into the thing that we both of us are going to probably spend an awful lot of time talking about. And James, you might as well just throw the spoiler tag off and then go off and do your thing because James is still behind on Boba Fett. So we will let him
All right, James.
disappear quietly so that way he can stay spoiler free. So he's but no problem or cool. Bye, James. So anyway, these past 2 episodes.
You mean
Like-
you mean episodes? You mean episodes 1 and 2 of season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Right. It is that was something I kind of wondered is like the 2 best episodes I would say so far in the series have been the ones where there's like no Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of me that's just like, did they just like mistitle this series?
I mean, I don't know.
Because it's not that I didn't like the first 3 episodes, but
These are just other like Mando's just
Yeah.
a better character. And I don't feel like I'm crazy for saying that.
no, I think everyone would more or less agree with you. And I would say it just speaks to a general problem. Like, yes, I say problem, but as much as I am enjoying the series as a whole, that Boba Fett didn't appear in episode 5. Had what, 1 line in episode 6?
Yeah.
And like 1 scene. Like, is that a problem? Like overall, like, yeah, like it's. I think it's there's a couple things here, which is one is Star Wars. The universe is bigger than just Boba Fett,
Sure.
so it's almost inevitable that things outside of Boba Fett's immediate vicinity are going to be happening, and those
Sure.
scenes may or may not have been important to other things going on. But would this have worked better? Maybe not. If these were like flashback episodes that took place prior to like Mando teaming up with Boba Fett in season 3 of Mandalorian, or would this has this set up stuff for the final episode of Mandalorian that couldn't have been set up without all of this other stuff?
I mean, who knows? We're speculating.
Yeah, we're speculating on something we will know in a day or a week.
I think the interesting part is like this show got really interesting. Like this show was like, wow, it's the Mandalorian in the first half, and then the last 10 minutes, this show like turns on its head, and you go, oh fuck! Like first they blow up Garsa Fwip, but before that we get fucking Cad Bane working for the Syndicate. Which, how is this dude still alive? He's like in his 70s.
I know, right? Like, I'm starting to wonder if it is like an unspoken Star Wars rule where it's like all the cool characters from Clone Wars who aren't human are immortal.
Yeah, like
Like, what is the how old do Duros live? And that's the thing, is like no one has ever answered that
old
question
as
before.
fuck.
So yeah, but God, let's just talk about Cad Bane initially. Like, well, there's a bunch of other stuff we need to talk about, but I think the big thing was like the fact that you and I were texting back and forth after, because I didn't watch it until like, honestly,
yeah, you didn't watch it. So I was like, yo, you gotta watch this episode.
like I was just like, I am not done with work. Like I had another friend text me about it. I'm like, I'm still at work. I can't watch it yet. And the fact that our text messages back and forth is we both kind of had the same response. Like, here's a figure in the distance. Is that a Tusken Raider? Figure gets closer. Oh, that looks kind of like a cowboy hat. Oh my God. Oh fuck. Everything's fucked. Like, just like the instant you realize who it probably is. Like for us, it was just like oh shit. Like all of a sudden things just got really real, really fast. And who knows what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it became a thing of like, because again, my dad has never watched Clone Wars and never watched any of the animated stuff, and so it was so funny because he was saying like he's just watching, right, and like I flipped out and I was like, "Is that Cad Bane?" He goes, "Who?" I was like, "Is he red? Is he blue? Is he blue?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think so." And I was like, "Oh my God, it's Cad Bane."
I know, it's just like the moment you see it and you're just like, because
you're like, there's no way, and then you hear the voice and you go, "Oh my God, they did it."
it's like, oh my God, they did it. And it's just like you're excited because here's this character who was really, really like cool in like Clone Wars, but he was also just like not a good guy and capable of doing a whole lot of damage to like
Yeah,
one
I was
thing.
like,
It's like,
when I saw him,
everything's
I was
just
like, yo, Cobb Vanth is fucked, and like I felt bad too because I thought I thought they were gonna kill him. I don't think he's dead. He's not dead because they hit him in the shoulder. I watched it again, but
okay, cool.
yeah, he very clearly hits him in the shoulder, and he grabs his shoulder and falls down.
And for some perspective, Cad Bane is the kind of guy, or if he wanted to kill him,
yeah, he would
would
just
have
kill
been
him.
dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he fucked up the deputy. Anyway, the
The deputy was being stupid, and I think that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
he
yeah.
got fucked up.
Sure. I mean, to me, well, he was having a very respectful conversation with Cobb. I think the thing was with I felt bad because I was like, yo, did they set up that badass scene with Cobb Vanth in the beginning just to show how badass
Cad Bane is?
Cad Bane is? Like, is that the whole point of that opening scene? I was like, dude, that's kind of fucked up. They like literally set this man up just to fucking fuck him up.
To establish, like, to people who aren't familiar with Cad Bane,
Yeah, they like,
this
yo,
this guy's dangerous.
yeah, you establish Cad Bane you establish Cobb Vanth as this badass just to let Cad Bane come in and fuck him up.
Well, and it's also like I've had a couple people ask like, so who is this Cad Bane guy to me, and I'm just like, Cad Bane is a bounty hunter who was made it like Jedi struggled to take him down.
Yeah,
like prequel era Jedi at their peak struggle to take this guy down. Like there's going to be trouble no matter what. And something that never really got done in Clone Wars. We just know from some unfinished episodes there's some bad blood between Cad Bane and Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So for him, as much as it's like, why is he with the Pikes? I don't think it's that he wants to be with the Pikes. I think it's just like, oh, you mean I get to have an opportunity to take that just punk kid down a peg? Hell yeah. Because that's how he knows Boba Fett. Is he knows Boba Fett as this punk kid who was like the son of Jango Fett, another bounty hunter. So he has known Boba since, he was
young.
Young. So it's just like there's bad personal blood there. And so it's just like, I think that means we're also going to see a Cad Bane that is not going to show restraint. Not that he ever did show restraint. He was like very willing to do whatever needed to be done to get the job done, but also I would say at the same time didn't do anything needlessly. Like if he was going to do something, it was because he was getting paid. But since there is bad blood between him and did you ever finish Bad Batch?
I did, yeah.
There's also bad blood between him and Fennec Shand.
Yes.
So it's just like one of those scenes where it's just like he's got like a bit of a personal thing between the two of them. So it's gonna be bloody. It's gonna be very bloody. I mean, Robert Rodriguez is doing a lot of the directing and oversight on this. It's gonna be bloody. But yeah, no, like.
So I wanted to talk to you about this. Going back and like rewatching some of these episodes, and I don't even going back and like watching the Mandalorian episode. I don't know if I like Star Wars directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Not my favorite.
I
like Robert.
I like him as a person and I like him as a director. I don't know if I like him in this sandbox.
He's not the perfect fit.
Yeah.
Like his episode in season 2 was fine. It definitely had a lot of Robert Rodriguez like sense about it.
Sure.
But yeah, his style doesn't necessarily mesh with Star Wars. It's not a one-to-one, but imagine like Tarantino playing in this space. I'm sure Tarantino would have a blast, but it isn't necessarily the right fit for Star Wars.
Sure.
Like I think his episode because he's only done, I think, the first episode of this one was the one I would say was probably the weakest so far. Of Boba Fett. And I think a lot of it though is the guy is known for his action directing. So the fact that there was action in that episode, but not a lot. So I'm wondering if he's doing this one, which I don't know if he is or isn't, or did or didn't, because it's not like they're shooting it right now. I'd imagine that it's going to be more action packed, which I think is more his forte, even if it isn't necessarily like Star Wars in style.
Like I don't want to blame him because like there's a lot of stuff written in these episodes that just aren't good. But I don't know, man. I'm just like not as I'm like not as into his style as I thought I would. Like when I'm like, oh, dude, Robert Rodriguez is gonna do like whatever. I was like, I was excited about it, and like now I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, like he's a fine director. Like I like his work, but I won't disagree with you that he's not necessarily the right fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, but again, that's one of the reasons why I'm expecting it to be a bit like maybe because it's Star Wars, there won't be actual blood, but I have a feeling that this is gonna be a very action
Sure.
intense final episode. Um, but let's go kind of turn back the clock a bit and talk episode 5, because there's a whole lot in there to unpack. This is an episode,
Yeah.
again, the first one in Book of Boba Fett without Boba Fett. It is called The Return of the Mandalorian, and it is all about Mando, and there's just so much in there. Like,
Yeah.
we see flashbacks to the Follow Sundari, the capital Mandalore. We see like more details are in story about the Darksaber and its history. We get Wizard and a Naboo starfighter. There's a lot in that episode. Like, it was packed with, here's stuff about about our good old Mando Dinjarin, like in his story kind of moving forward, like him basically being kicked out of his old family, and fun with old prequel era fighters,
Yeah.
with of course an appearance by everyone's favorite New Republic pilot. I'm of course
Yeah.
talking about Trapper Wolf.
Trapper Wolf's not in there.
I know. I like, some people were saying it was Trapper Wolf, and I was just like, I don't think that was him. But
No, it's not
but
Trapper Wolf.
we did get I don't even
The
know
Kim
the character's
Convenience
name.
guy.
Yeah,
Kim Convenience guy.
like, which I love. I love that guy. I'm like, I kind of want that guy in more.
I mean,
Like-
he's gonna be in that Avatar series. He just got cast in that Avatar series,
Oh, did he?
the Netflix
Oh,
one.
that's
Yeah.
right. Isn't he Iroh?
Yeah. Perfect
I'm okay
casting,
with-
by the way.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, perfect casting. Perfect.
As
Well,
long
very
as-
well done.
Yeah, as long as Netflix is willing to give him up every once in a while, so we can get him in Star Wars. Because
Yeah,
it's just,
Yeah,
whatever
having that
his character
reoccurring
shows
character
up.
is great.
whenever he shows up, I just smile, because there's two parts of it. His character's kind of is like interesting alone, but also like the fact that this guy's a huge Star Wars fan,
Mhm.
like crazy big Star Wars fan. It just makes it just even more delightful, because you know he's having a blast. Or they're probably like, hey, do you want to just show up again for 5 minutes? And he's probably like, do you have a costume for me, or do I need to wear my own? Because he has pictures of going to conventions and cosplay as like an Imperial officer, as like other Star Wars characters. Like, the guy is legit, and is just like, I am so happy whenever he shows up. But yeah, that episode, just like, there was a lot, just lore wise, and just in terms of fun. Like, you could almost say like the entire second half of that episode, it's not that it didn't need to happen, it's that it was just kind of mood, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like, we don't necessarily need to see Mando rebuild an old Naboo starfighter, but I'm really glad we got it. Like, they could have cut that entire thing out and everyone would have been like, oh, that's fine. But it's just, it was so delightful to watch.
Yeah.
But that episode did make me wonder a lot about the Darksaber. Just because the armorer makes a whole bit about how Bo-Katan had been given the Darksaber rather than earning it through combat. And so
Yeah.
I've been wondering this whole time.
Well, remember
it's
too, like the thing that I keep stressing to people every time that people bring it up is like, you got to remember too, the armor isn't a reliable narrator. Like, she has her
Exactly.
own, like, she's pushing some kind of narrative too.
like, Bo-Katan failed because she didn't win it by combat. And I just
Yeah.
sat there and went, well, we know Maul won it through combat. But
Yeah.
did Sabine? And that's like, she found it while they were engaging Maul in, some combat, but at that point, does that mean that Saber belongs to Ezra? Does Ezra have a stronger it just was like, I started having lots of questions. As much as I'm kind of with you, the armorer is not a reliable narrator, and anyone is like, oh, this happened because she didn't win it by combat. It's just like, she was leading Mandalore against the Empire. Didn't matter how she won that damn Darksaber. She was in a fight that was going to be hard, and she happened to lose. How she had the Darksaber was absolutely irrelevant to that outcome.
Yeah.
So saying that is because the armorer has an agenda. But it did make me wonder, it's like, then who can someone else claim it? Because I think Mando kind of doesn't want it. Like, he didn't want to give it to Paz Vizsla, I think is the name. I know it's one of the Vizslas.
Yeah, it's one of the Vizslas.
Like, he just was like, didn't want to give it to him because he knew the guy wasn't like worthy. But it seems like Mando isn't like married to being the one to carry it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I just was like, I remember watching it and just being like, man, I actually, that started me on a Rebels rewatch. Because I wanted to rewatch the bits about the Darksaber, because I was just like, maybe there's just some extra thing there that I've missed before, and I don't think I did, but it was just like, it was nice also to see there being some some oblique references to some of what Kanan says to Sabine in Trials of the Darksaber about how like the Darksaber and the Kyber Crystal kind of have like, they're not like a living thing, but they are like, there's like a symbiotic relationship. So where if he's like, if it's resisting him, it's because he's resisting it. So I thought that was nice. But
it's a nice touch.
Yeah, it was a very nice touch. But then in the last episode, before we got all the Cad Bane stuff, we got quite a bit with Luke Skywalker, which surprised me. Like, we
got a lot.
We got a lot. Like, I was expecting after season 2, it's like, oh, we're never going to see Luke Skywalker again in this series. And it's like, nope.
Yeah, Luke's going to be a major character.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. Like, there was...
And he looked good. He looked damn good.
They did. I thought some of the CGI work in season 2 was like, it could have been better. And it's just like, all of my doubts from season 2 were gone with this one. Like, I think their effects work just nailed it. And it was so nice to see Luke in his like prime.
Yeah.
And to see him interact with Ahsoka. And it kind of goes to my theme where we're like, oh man, should this have been like Mando season 3? I think Book of Boba Fett has the misfortune of having to function as a bridge between season 2 and season 3 of Mandalorian, because it's obvious a lot of time is going to have passed between 2 and 3, and they need some storylines to have moved forward to establish where things are at that point. And Book of Boba Fett has to carry some of that weight. But I mean, I found it crazy how many people were bitching and moaning about Luke Skywalker being in it.
I don't know. I loved it.
I loved it. It just was shocked me how many people were like, I think like the headline on The Verge was, Star Wars has a Luke Skywalker problem. And I was just like, counterpoint, no.
No.
Yeah. It's just, no. I think they've found a system that more or less works for them.
The only thing was like, there were some voice clips that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, for the most part, I think they were fine. And like, I feel like they're using all these characters beautifully. Like, the conversation that he has with Ahsoka is fucking brilliant.
Yeah. And it's just like the, like father, like son bet.
Yeah.
And it's just
God.
You could see Luke is just doubting whether or not he's making the right choice.
Hits me in the soul.
Yeah. It just was like, there's so much going on there. Because, Luke has doubts in the sense that he's very young and he's expected to, like, he's burdened essentially with the task of bringing back the Jedi. And
Yeah.
he's sitting here going, like, not really sure how to go about it. Like, he's building the training temple. He knows what he needs to do, but he's also not sure if he's, like, doing the right thing, which is Luke. Just Luke in general is always going to be on that thing, and this kind of ties into the thing where people are like, oh, Luke in The Last Jedi isn't really Luke. It's like, Luke was always looking ahead and always wanting to make sure he was doing, like, the right thing and looking to the future. Of course, he's sitting there questioning his decisions over whether or not it's the right thing. That's just Luke.
Yeah.
And it was nice to kind of get these hints to these, these connections to the sequel trilogy. Because there's a lot of people out there who, if you looked at what they say about Mandalorian, they're like, oh, they're completely trying to undo the sequel trilogy. And it's like, no.
Oh, no, they're providing context to the sequel trilogy.
They're providing context. Like, in some ways, Mandalorian has already provided some context for the sequel trilogy that I don't think some people have picked up on. You even get it in, like, the first few episodes of Mandalorian, where Mando Tux basically is, I think, upset over the fact that his contact that he'd been sent to was Imperial, and Grief Karga goes, like, what are you going to do, turn him over to the New Republic? And Mando's response is, that's a joke. Like, the New Republic is a joke, which ties in very beautifully with a lot of the stuff in the, like, books where, like, the New Republic is kind of, toothless.
Yeah.
So it's just, people just want to sit there and, for some odd reason, there's a huge bunch of people who want to sit there and claim that Filoni and Favreau are on some sort of crusade against the evil Kathleen Kennedy. And it's just like, you guys don't know how the industry works, do you? Like, at all. But it gets you clicks on YouTube. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of, I feel like Clone Wars that did a lot of the same thing, where it wasn't that it was rehabilitating the prequel trilogy so much as it provided a lot of context for it. It made the thing that surrounded it, the films, stronger, because it could dive deeper into some issues that the films had to kind of move quickly past, because you have only 2.5 hours. So, yeah, I think all this time with Luke was just, like, beautiful. And then, of course, Grogu being, like, we see bits of Grogu at the Fall of the Jedi. Like, we don't see him, but we see bits of the Fall of the Jedi Temple. And Grogu's also confronted with the thing where it's just like, either you need to let go of your attachments and become a Jedi, or I can take you back to the person you view as a father and the training. Like, it's, that's like a tough decision to throw at someone who is basically, like, 4. Because that's kind of how I view Baby Yoda, in terms of, like, yeah, Baby Yoda's not 4 years old, but, like, Baby Yoda's still, like, Grogu's a toddler. And he's having to make a very adult choice.
Yeah. And I think, like, people keep bringing up, like, oh, it's a test or whatever. And it could be, but I mean, I think the thing people don't realize is, like, at this point, like, people are like, oh, Luke is the, and they bring up, like, Luke is the, like, over attachment guy. Like, that shit, like, that's Luke's thing, right? Is like the over attachment thing is Luke's thing. But you gotta remember too that, like, Luke is learning and, like, trying to be the best Jedi he can, and the only thing he has to learn from it is these fucking books that are telling him, like, yeah, you can't be attached or whatever. So he thinks that this is the right move. Like, this is how we have to teach people.
Yeah.
Like, he might not believe it in his heart, but, like, this is what he feels like needs to happen.
Yeah,
from
it's
these
like this.
books.
Yeah, it's like this weird thing that I've taken from a lot of Star Wars expanded material, It is the Jedi preach this scene about attachments cause problems because they can.
Yes.
If you aren't careful, attachment can lead you down a dark path. It's like literally the road to hell is paved with good intentions type of mishap. Like Anakin didn't set out to join the dark side. Anakin set out to save the life of someone he loved.
Sure.
So yeah, you need to be careful about it. But if you look at like Jedi, like who have kind of upheld the ideal in some ways, Luke had attachments to like Han and Leia. And then you also have with Rey, she had strong attachments to really strong attachment with Finn. Another attachment with Poe. One with Chewie. It is in some ways, it goes back to like Anakin's scene in episode 2 where like the Jedi are compelled to love. Like the Jedi are better when they do have these attachments, not because the attachments can become a weakness, but because those attachments can remind them of why they are doing what they do.
Yeah. But again,
And
like those aren't in the books though.
No.
So, like, when Luke is learning, trying to be the best Jedi he can, learning from these old books, it is putting in
Attachment is
his
forbidden.
head. Yeah, so, like, that's what he's preaching. He might not believe it himself, but he doesn't know better. He's learning from these books.
Yeah. Which is kind of, I think, what Ahsoka, in her really brief conversation, was trying to get to him, which was, you need to figure this out. That doesn't necessarily mean these books are.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're important, but to steal from another Disney property, they're more like guidelines anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of, and I think that's something I have felt as like a Star Wars fan for a while. And it seems like you and I are kind of on that same page where it's just like the fault of the Jedi Order was literally, it became so isolated within itself that it lost touch with
Everything else, yeah.
everything else. And Luke is about to make similar mistakes.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties in, because here's the other thing. When everyone tries to throw the whole Luke sequel trilogy and rabble about it, a lot of this actually comes from Dave Filoni. Because he had a note in early story meeting that Luke is the Frodo of Star Wars. He is given this impossible task and is going to be dealing with it and living with it for the rest of his life. The task for him will never be finished. Which is kind of the thing with Frodo, is he kind of tossed the ring away, but the scars never fully healed.
Yeah. Like, this is the burden that he's going to bear for the rest of his life or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
And it's not a fair burden. Luke shouldn't have to bear it alone, but it's the task set out for him. And it's not that Yoda and Obi-Wan set him up to fail so much as they probably, in some ways, didn't realize just how daunting that task was.
Yeah.
That they gave him like essentially an impossible task. It wasn't that he couldn't do it, but it just was like, he's one person.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's amazing. He's fantastic, but that's a lot to ask of one person.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help, like, Ahsoka is basically just, seems like she's unwilling to train people. But she also, I think she still doesn't consider herself a Jedi.
No, she's not a Jedi. She's reiterated that many a time.
So it's just like, he is, even when he's not alone, he's still alone.
Yeah.
So,
Tough.
no, it's tough. And I'm really glad we're seeing this. Because what Luke has been up to between Return of the Jedi and the sequel trilogy it was one thing that never really got told fully. We have bits and pieces here and there, but I've always seen it kind of as this inevitable thing. Like, inevitably, they're going to have to tell the Luke Skywalker story from that time period. And even if they don't tell it fully within a TV show, we're going to get it in some way, shape, or form. Might as well give us more glimpses of it with the TV show.
Yeah.
Because
And I want more. And the
Yeah.
thing that's crazy, and like I guess we could end on it. The thing that's crazy is like if we're getting all this in a Boba Fett show, just imagine what that Obi-Wan show is going to be.
It's going to be crazy.
Because so. Did you hear about? You heard all the rumors and stuff, right? Like it's coming out in May. That's not a rumor anymore. But then it's 6 episodes, and they're an hour each, at least.
I thought it was only going to be 4 episodes.
No, it's 6 episodes and an hour each.
That is like 2.5 hours more than I expected.
Yeah.
What is going on?
I could be wrong. Let me see. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let's see here. Show series. Episode counts. Yeah, 6 episodes.
Wow.
6 episodes, and they've the rumors are saying the slowest, like the shortest episode is an hour.
Man, maybe what it is, maybe we've just been wrong from the beginning, and what it really is Obi-Wan giving yoga instruction.
Meets Mando.
Meets a very young Mando.
Mando shows up. Meets Mando. Mando shows up.
It's like, I could bring you in warm, or I could bring you in cold. It's like, or you won't bring me in at all.
Mando time travels and goes back in time to help Obi-Wan defend Luke. This is the way.
Yeah. God. So many questions. I still think the hint to Grand Admiral Thrawn from season 2, I still think, because they've talked about there being like these multiple Star Wars series in this timeline that are going to like converge in one big event. And I still think we're going to get essentially a retelling or adaptation of, I think Thrawn is going to be the big bad.
Could be. Maybe Thrawn's behind the bikes.
Maybe. Ooh,
that
would be interesting.
I don't think we get a Kira sighting here.
I don't think so either. Because haven't heard anything about Crimson Dawn, so who knows what happened there. Crimson Dawn could have died with Maul.
Yeah. Like I don't think we get Maul, I don't think we get Kira.
No.
I think Thrawn might be a safe bet here.
Yeah, it's not a name you drop lightly. But it just adds so many questions to like, what has Ezra been up to?
Yeah.
But I do know that Timothy Zahn, who writes the Thrawn novels, has said outright that he's not allowed to do anything past Rebels, because that is whatever happens to Thrawn and Ezra in that sense is up to Dave Filoni. Like he's said that outright, that it's like, I can't touch Thrawn after like Rebel season 4 time period because those decisions are up to Dave. It's like, okay. And we're getting a lot of like, he's brought back Cad Bane. We have Ahsoka. We have a name drop of Thrawn. There's strong rumors about Sabine. Like it's coming. Like you can't do Ezra without Thrawn, given just how Rebels ended. So
I'm excited.
Yeah. Like these last 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett have been just like super hype, because they just, this is what I like, is when I have a bunch of questions and I can't wait until I find out what the answers are.
Yes, 100%.
So, yeah, they have me all excited and stoked. But Wednesday just can't get here fast enough. And so
Yeah.
the debate for me now is, do I stay up till 1 o'clock to
Yes.
watch it? Or do
Uh.
I wake up early to watch it before work?
No.
Because I don't think
duh.
I'm going to last the day. But
Nah, dude, you kill it.
I'm probably going to stay up late. I'm probably going to be very tired in all my meetings on Wednesday.
My man.
But I think that does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very Star Wars episode today.
Yeah, I know. Like, basically, I was putting this together and looking at all the news we had to discuss, and I was just like, I have nothing to add here that isn't Star Wars. Like, if we added anything more, it was going to be some other Star Wars thing, just because there's been so much, and I was just like, we've got plenty. But yeah. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the fun things you are supposed to do on the internet. Oh my God, James is rushing down here. He somehow just like knew through osmosis that I was closing the show up. So I'll start over again. Please like, share, do all the fun things you're supposed to do on the internet. Leave a comment, say nice things, get your vaccine, and then get your booster, because you should get your vaccine. Otherwise, please, everyone, stay safe, take care, and we will be seeing you all in 2 weeks.